Today on That Business Show, we're going to be talking with Bryan Falchuk. He is a best-selling author of the book Do a Day and a certified personal trainer and behavioral change specialist who helps people change their lives for the better. He is a husband, father, brother, uncle, son, and more, and has spent the first half of his life obese and much of the second half of his life trying not to become obese again. So he's got a great story centered around his book and his philosophy, Do a Day, of which we will be discussing in today's program. So Bryan, welcome to the program today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jamie.
So tell me about, your life here so far. I mean, you've overcome so much. You lost 100 pounds, that you carried as a youth. Your wife battled a sickness, and you've turned all of this negativity into, a philosophy. So take me through this, please.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, and I also appreciate many people go through many different things and things that may seem tougher or seem easier. And the one thing I say is, our stories are only relevant to us. It's not a competition. Everyone goes through different things. And so I share a bit of myself, but I think it's extensible to others just, through the work that I've been doing. So what is that thing that I've been sharing? It's what I call Do a Day. And it's basically a way to start with a foundation of figuring out your true motivation, because without understanding why you do things, you're probably not going to do them, or you're not going to do them for long. So that's the building block. Once we've got that in place. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I struggle with, weight issues and dietary changes. And it's just, it's a lifestyle, and it's hard to change that lifestyle. What did you do to change the lifestyle that really impacts your behavior?
Yeah, and I mean, it is really about figuring out why I would change it. So for years, I tried to lose weight because my parents had, been unhappy, and my father's a physician, so he wasn't just, wishing better for me, but from the medical side, he knew better, and he was worried, or because kids were making fun of me, and I didn't want that anymore. It was all very external. It was someone else's wishes or someone else's judgment. That's not the basis for changing your lifestyle, for changing your life. And so for me, it was figuring out reasons for myself that I fully grasped and believed in. And that's what that why is. That's what that motivation is. But that's just the first piece of it.
Okay, so you battled obesity as a child. At what age did you begin to lose weight and keep it off?
Yeah, it was in my teen years. So I was very lucky to have someone in my school who ran the physical education program, which I think in a lot of schools is kind of a blow off, not at my school. He takes it really seriously. He really seeks to educate people about themselves and let them figure out their wellness journey just by giving them some tools and some guidance and helping them discover what matters. So I worked with him for 4 years, and it was really in the third year, after the first couple of years of introducing me slowly but surely. And he's in it for the long game because he's trying to create a lifetime of health. So it's not like you got to lose weight today or by this date. It's let me teach you things.
How much of your weight loss was changing your dietary habits versus, having, physical activity in your life?
So as a kid, as a teenager, I'd say it was about 50-50. As an adult, it's quite different. I am very physically active, and that's been important to me, but I've also had injuries or had surgery along the way where I couldn't work out for maybe a couple months at a time or longer. And I haven't gained the weight. And so it's what I've discovered is it is all about diet for me at this point in my life.
And what dietary changes do you stick to as an adult now that really makes a difference in your life?
So in 2011, I had adopted an approach called the slow carb diet, which is basically about removing sugar and as much starch carbohydrate from your diet. It worked really well. It was a lot of effort and a lot of conscious effort around looking at everything I ate. I flipped every package around and read that label, and it was like you get through this long list of unpronounceables, and then that last word is something you can't eat. It's like, all that effort for nothing. So it worked well, but as I said, it was a lot of work. I switched to a vegan lifestyle, literally like that. And that's actually where I coined the phrase Do a Day. I was reading a book by a vegan. I found myself really inspired, and I had thought about it, but always made excuses or painted pictures where some future situation was going to be too much to handle. A work dinner, my son's birthday party, and wanting to eat cake with him and not be the weird guy in the corner being like, no, I don't eat cake and I don't like delicious things.
Right.
And I just said, I can do it. I can do a day. I'm not going on a work trip tomorrow. It's not my son's birthday tomorrow. So I adopted a vegan lifestyle back in 2015, I think it was. Yeah, so it's been about 2.5 years. It was January of 15.
You know, one thing that I struggle with is I believe I'm addicted to food the way, you know, a heroin user is addicted to the opiates. I mean, there, especially Diet Coke, and you can see one sitting there on the camera with me, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night craving this stuff, and you're talking to somebody who used to smoke, and I haven't smoked in 10 years. I quit smoking without issue, but there's stuff in food that I crave.
Yeah.
It's more powerful than nicotine.
Well, let me tell you something. There is something different about it, and every addiction has its power, you know. And for some people, some are stronger than others, and so I don't just work with people on their food choices, but let's talk about that because that's what you raised, and I can talk about that firsthand. The reason why food was an addiction for me goes way back to my childhood and things that left me unsettled and feeling insecure as a very young child. And my parents' marriage was coming apart. There's a lot of issues with that. Look, at least half of us go through that in this country. And I was only like 4 or 5 at the time. Little kids don't really understand how to deal with their emotions. And, you know, my parents had their hands very full. My dad worked a ton. You know, there were four of us kids. In addition to the 2 of them, you know, my mother was dealing with the family coming apart. So they couldn't really just focus in on me and try to help me through it. So where did I turn? I turned to food because it's comforting. It's good, it's right there for you, and it never judges you, never pushes back, and never says, I'm too busy.
Right.
It's just there and it's good. And so I developed a very strong emotional connection to food that, on top of, you know, the flavor, which is enticing, on top of the chemical response, which we have. I mean, there is proof that cheese, for example, has something called casomorphines that trigger the same neural patterns and chemical releases as cocaine and heroin and other opiates. So it's not a coincidence that you can become addicted to food, but you layer on that emotion in a way that most other things in our life don't carry. You know, for some people, there is an emotion tied to cigarettes or drugs or whatever, but food's a little bit different. Our whole society is focused around it.
Yeah, especially when you live in a businessman life, everything's over lunch or over drinks or over dinner. It can be a challenge to eat effectively. And so for the business professionals out there, what do you advise? I mean, still do the business lunches and drinks and just substitute them with the salads and stuff.
I don't think grit and self-restraint really will get you anywhere, not for long. And that's where it's going to come full circle. I don't mean to be a broken record, but you got to figure out your why. So if you don't actually feel your reason for losing weight or making those healthier choices, you're not going to stick with it. Because look, that stuff's really enticing. And when everyone around you is eating that really juicy steak or mowing down on that pizza, are you going to choose the salad with no dressing? You're not. Let's be honest. And you actually don't have to in every instance. You have to make smart choices on the whole. And if you do something that's not the best choice for you, and this is a key thing of Do a Day, it's about letting go of your past mistakes and not living in fear of the future. So remember I said with that vegan thing, it was about all these what ifs for down the road. And that's why I wasn't doing something right now. It's like, well, hang on. None of that's happening right now. You're not in a business lunch or dinner right now. You're not at a party right now. So make a better choice right now. And if you did those things yesterday, I'm working with someone who's like, I was doing so well. I lost 20 pounds. We went out for, Jill in accounting or whatever, her birthday. We went to a bar, I had 2 beers and I ate 3 nachos and I ruined everything. And so I went home and I ordered pizza and I ate the whole thing and I had a gallon of ice cream and whatever else because I'd thrown it away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a second, you didn't throw it all away. That little indiscretion last night at the bar actually didn't destroy everything you've done. And just because you did that, it doesn't mean you have to continue to make choices you wish you didn't make. So it's letting go of that past and letting go of the judgment of it more than anything.
So the Do a Day philosophy, and people can learn more about this at doadaybook.com, of which your book became you became a best-selling author, and that was your first book. So congratulations on that. But explain to us now this philosophy that you incorporate into your teachings.
Yeah, so we start with that motivation, and I ask some probing questions in the book that this is the motivation thing I can't tell you. I can help you unlock it for yourself, but you've got to go through that journey, and you can get help along the way, and I offer coaching, and the book can help with it too, but that's work you have to do yourself. But we start with that, and then the whole principle behind Do a Day and the name of it, that meaning is that letting go of the past and not living in fear and anticipation of the future. When you do that, you suddenly unlock your ability to achieve things. So let's take weight loss, right? You had mentioned I had about 100 pounds to lose all in because I went through 2 bouts of weight loss. It was over 100 pounds. No one loses 100 pounds. No one just gets in and like, you know what? I'm going to wake up today and lose 100 pounds. it doesn't happen in a day. You don't lose 100 pounds. If it does, you get something seriously wrong with you. But also it's just too daunting. And I know, because there's so many days of my life that I didn't start losing that weight. And it wasn't always 100 pounds. It just kept spiraling up because I just kept never starting.
My problem is I get in these little spurts, and I've lost 30 and 40 pounds a couple times in my life, but it always comes back. But every time I get in that weight loss mode, I'll drop a quick 5 and okay, I've lost 5. Now I've got a cushion. I can cheat some. It comes right back up. I'm constantly in that 5 pound up, 5 pound down mentality.
And I think that's a motivation story, because if you're just losing weight to lose weight, what is that? And what happens when you've done the weight loss, or you lose the 5 pounds and the pressure starts to come off? You shouldn't be losing weight for the sake of losing weight. That's not enough motivation. You need a reason to lose the weight. You need a reason to transform your life. And one thing I'll say is, for whatever people come to me for coaching or help on, that's like one little aspect of their life. That's a gateway drug. You cannot change your life one aspect at a time.
What was your why then? Was it just you wanted to make that change as a teenager? But what was your why?
So my change as a teenager didn't last, because it was focused on how I felt in the world. And guess what? Once I felt better because I lost the weight, that started to change. And I was a kid. Who I was 10 years later was markedly different. So even if that was valid as a kid, it wasn't as an adult. And the point for me as an adult was around my wife's illness, and watching that unfold, and watching my 2-year-old son at the time face losing his mother. And who was I as a father? Was I good enough? Was I there for him? If she was gone, was I doing any of the things of being the kind of man he needed me to be?
Hold that point there. We'll cover that when we come back from the break. Currently, again, talking to Bryan Falchuk. He is a best-selling author of the book, Do a Day. You can learn more and pick that up at doadaybook.com. He's also a contributor to Inc. magazine. So again, learn more at doadaybook.com. You're listening to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. And we're back to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Today, my guest, Bryan Falchuk. He is the best-selling author of the book, Do a Day, a philosophy that you can learn more about over at that website, doadaybook.com, that helps get you over whatever that hump is in your life that you're battling, whether it's weight loss, a financial issue, a job issue, whatever it is that you're needing help with. This philosophy can help unlock, the problem that you're having in your life. And Bryan, in that last segment, telling us about, his battle with, obesity, and touching, briefly there on, the illness that his wife had. And I'll let Bryan continue that story here in this segment. So Bryan, talk to us about this next battle that happened in your life.
Yeah, and this was for me the point that my true motivation really came out. So I was a young father. I was 32 years old. Not that I was a young father. I was young and I was a father. And my son was 2.5 at the time. My wife still has a chronic illness, but this is when she's really in the throes of it. Things were all coming out. She had become bedridden, was wasting away, and the doctors had basically completely given up on her. Not basically, they had. They didn't know what was going on, and her primary care physician was just like, you know what, I'm going on vacation. We'll touch base in 6 weeks. And she was losing 2 pounds a day, and there seemed to be no way to stop it. So she didn't have 6 weeks. So you can imagine how that felt in our household. So there was a day, June 30th, 2011. She's in bed. Our son is standing in front of the bed looking at her, and I'm standing behind him. And it just, this moment, this setting just made everything so clear to me is, this little boy who's my everything is facing losing his mother, and she stays at home with him. So, she's his everything. And it's just like, who am I? Like, what have I become? I had gained back a lot of the weight I had already lost. Now I looked different. I didn't look obese like I did when I was a kid. I just looked kind of American. But I was overweight again. I was miserable. Physically, I was miserable. Emotionally, I was really unhappy. I was in a bad place at work. I was facing losing my wife. It just was not a good scene. And I was exhausted because I was working full time and then coming home and taking care of her and him, or actually at that point, I was staying at home. I got in about a month flexibility from work to work from home, taking care of him and her and trying to work. It's a lot. And I was just angry. I was angry all the time. I was exhausted. I was unhappy, and this little kid had to watch all that. So, the way I put it is he was watching his mother die and watching his father die just at a slower rate. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. This is not acceptable. He deserves better, and I can be better.
And so what did you do to overcome the anger and then the weight issue again?
Yeah, so I focused on that purpose, and I woke up the next day and I felt different about everything. And that's where I really say that discovering your true motivation is incredibly powerful, and I think most people haven't found it. When you find it, it is such a transformative force in your life that then it's up to you to put the pieces into place, but you have that consistent drive, that consistent reason that will get you through the tough moments, that will bring you back on course when you stray, and will keep you feeling positive and energized because you see how it's all fitting together for that purpose. Now, this is all kind of like some people want a guidebook. It's like, tell me the exact things I have to do. It doesn't work that way. And the reason it doesn't work that way is because it is an introspective journey. You can get help along the way, and that's where my coaching work comes in, and that's where the book comes in. But ultimately, you do have to figure it out for yourself, and you have to be the one. I call the book Do a Day because it's about doing, right? There's proactive action you have to take to transform your life. No one can do it for you, and no one can tell you everything you need to do if you expect it to stick. And that's why here I am 6 years later. I'm still gunning. I'm still, I'm still about the same weight I was once I got into shape after that moment. Like within 2 or 3 pounds.
Well, you look great. You sent me a couple of photos there. I saw, one of them when you're running. I mean, you look to be, 140 or 150 pounds. Right now you look incredible right now. Plus, you're a personal trainer on top of, a coach too, right? You're actually helping people in the gym, not just this.
I don't help anyone in the gym. I could. The reason why I did that is less about let's go and teach you how to pump iron. It's about I need the understanding and expertise to talk about the physical side. I will say before the book, most of the coaching I did was around health and wellness, and it was never that limited. That's why someone came to me, but we'd end up transforming much more than that. When you have that real purpose, you get into a better work situation. Maybe you go back and get your degree that you didn't finish, or you're a better spouse or partner or parent. It just, you can't cordon that off. Once you know your real reason for doing things, it extends. Since the book, most of the people who've come to me have been around business. And again, it's never just about business. But when you start realizing the career you're in, you just sort of fell into, and you're mindlessly going through it, and you're doing it with anxiety, and you're doing it without a feeling of success, that's not self-sustaining.
All these,
then we work because we have to.
All these obstacles that we overcome in life, then it really comes down to that why. Then what is your motivation?
Absolutely.
People just aren't simply going to say, I'm going to do this today because, I watched something and I thought that would be cool to do that. You got to have that why. Does the why always revolve around like somebody else though? Does it always revolve? You hear a lot about people talking about their kids, but myself, I'm a single guy. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. How do people like myself find that why?
Yeah, so that's a really common question. I work with people who do and don't have kids, and I work with people who have kids who their why isn't about their kids. They might think it is, and then going through the work, they realize there's something else at play there. So it doesn't have to be about your kids. There's a few things that I think are really important about it. So it needs to be something really deep within you, something really serious that no matter what else is happening, you will always care about. So like, what's that enduring, deep, really pure point to you that is literally the most important thing in your life? Now, it doesn't mean you only make choices that align with that. There are certain situations where, you can't. You've got some limitations. You've got, you have to pay bills or whatever, but it does mean that you're heading in that direction. So any discrete decision may not be directly tied to it, but they should be additively getting you towards that motivation. For some people, it's about, I've worked with some people who have health concerns of their own. And while they may be okay right now, there's a risk to their long term. And so they want to make sure that they get to enjoy their life. They're working hard and they want to get that benefit in retirement to go travel or whatever it is. And maybe their condition has a risk of limiting their physical capabilities. And so they want to figure out, what can I do today to increase my chance of being able to enjoy that stuff, increase my life expectancy, and why can't I enjoy the journey along the way? I don't want it to just be hard work until I get that payback. Let me craft something that's actually enjoyable in the here and now. Because you're not going to do things you don't enjoy. So when we talk about exercise, people are like, oh, I know I have to run and I have to do at least an hour, but I hate running and I don't have an hour. It's like, wait a second, who said you have to run? And who said it has to be an hour? Because if you're forcing yourself, guess what? It's not going to continue on.
Right.
So let's craft something that's self-sustaining and speaks to that motivation.
Let's come back to the night you went to bed and you woke up with that whole different mindset. Talk to me then about, what changed in your life. The anger, did the anger just disappear overnight? And what happened with your wife? It sounds like she did recover.
Yeah. She's still here. We still deal with her illness, but it's so corny that every cloud is a silver lining, but it's very true. We have grown and changed tremendously as parents, as individuals, because of that. So you can take good out of bad. So what happened with me, I didn't wake up 100% better, but I woke up directed and I was really clear on what that is. And I felt completely different in everything I did. And that's really crucial. So while the anger is still there in that moment, the ability to get rid of it, the ability to unlock it, that's what was created through having the purpose. So that's been a lot of my focus with myself over the years, is not just around my wellness physically, but my wellness emotionally. And that's allowed me to be a better leader at work, a better partner at home, a better parent, a better friend, a better son, all those things you read off from husband, son, uncle, it's pervasive. There's no one little bit of it. So that it unlocked my ability to really do the self-work that ultimately I can benefit from.
Now, your book, Do a Day, becoming a bestseller. You're also a contributor to Inc. magazine. What inspired you to write the book? And tell me how that helped really get your message out there.
Yeah, so the whole thing with my message is I love helping people change their lives. I don't change lives, they change them, but I can help contribute to that. I love the coaching work because of that. Now, the thing about coaching is it's limited by my capacity. So even if I did it 24/7, there's still so many people I could never work with, I could never hope to impact. And that's where it really became clear to me, actually through working with someone that I turned to for mentoring, that I need to find another way to get this message out that's more scalable. And the book was pretty obvious at that point. It was a call with him. The next morning I was in San Francisco. I went for a run along the Embarcadero, which is just an awesome place to go for a run. I thought through the whole thing in my head, got back to the hotel, showered, headed to the airport, and I literally just started banging out on my keyboard in the terminal and that whole flight back east. So I had like 8 or 9 hours of writing, and I got almost half the book written because it was so clear to me.
Just flowed from within. Yeah, I mean, you had everything
from my
to
heart.
say.
Yeah, and I've been talking about it for years, so I knew what the message was, and I had structured it on that run, so it just came out. And I think it makes it more authentic in that way, because I'm literally speaking from what I know, what I love, and what I feel, and it seems to be resonating with people.
So for people that are facing some type of obstacle, again, whether it's weight loss, something financial, something personal, it's all about finding that why, that motivation. So if they can take one thing away from this interview and do tomorrow, do immediately, and to find that why, what would you say to them? What can I do tomorrow to kind of get started on the right path?
Yeah, so I put together a really basic intro exercise to help people kick it off. You go to doadaybook.com/the exercise. It's an exercise /the exercise, right? Pretty easy to remember. There's just a few questions to start exploring with yourself. Don't expect to have it done in 5 minutes. Put some real time in it, revisit it. That will start you on that introspective path.
All right, a good discussion. Bryan Falchuk, best-selling author of the book Do a Day, also a contributor to Inc. magazine. A great story. Glad you could be with me today on the program. So, Bryan, thank you so much,
Jamie.
And congratulations on all your success. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And again, learn more at doadaybook.com and overcome that obstacle that is keeping you from, whether it's losing weight, a financial issue, something personal. His philosophy can help you overcome those obstacles. And he also offers coaching and training if you need personal one-on-one assistance. doadaybook.com. New episodes each weekday morning, 9 a.m., thatbusinessnetwork.com. And please find us on iTunes and on YouTube and subscribe. You're listening to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business.